sin runs deep, your grace is more. Your grace is found, is where you are. Where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Teach my song to rise to you. When temptation comes my way, when I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. Worship Your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. Worship Your holy name. You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all Your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. Worship Your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come. Still my soul will sing Your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy where sin runs deep. Your grace is more. Your grace is found, is where you are. Where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. I want.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. Glad you can join us. As we begin, forgive my voice here tonight. I hope I'm projecting okay and you're able to hear me very well. But whatever happened, somewhere along the way, I just started losing my voice the other day. But glad you are with us. We're talking about some kind of important things for our day. This is all kind of preliminary, but we'll get to that in just a moment. First of all, let's you and I pray. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. From every time and every age, there are things about the culture in which people live that prevents them from coming to know you. Our time is no different. As Ronald Rolheiser says, at one point, there has been no golden age of spirituality. Each age has its struggles. Each age has its problems. So Heavenly Father, bless us as we try to make sense of the struggles, the challenges that prevent us from coming to know you more intimately in our time, in our age, and in our world. Bless Jerry, bless Steve, bless all of us. Thank you for joining us, and let us begin. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So,
All right.
Jerry.
Well, we started out in chapter 1. We really, introduced what is spirituality, what is the soul, just to kind of set the stage.
And this
for
whole
that.
idea of energy,
Right.
we're going to talk a lot about more to this energy that we
The
all
eros
have.
and yes.
Yes.
And how do we manage it? So we're going to get into, we'll set the stage for the reason for the book is the current struggle with Christian spirituality. Why do we need to, what the following chapters are going to be about? Why do we need this? Where are we at this point? So diving right into it, a lot of my questions are really leading in with Father Mark with actual quotes from the book. It is not easy to know the right disciplines by which to creatively channel our most powerful and intimate energies, so that the result is happiness and delight in life.
Wait, aren't you?
Yeah, that was this thing that I said to you. So
All right.
if you want to go ahead and look at that,
Well,
read that.
okay, a little bit. We're going to talk about happiness and delight. That's what we're really kind of here for, to talk about this idea of delight. We're going to talk about depression in relationship to what he calls delight and happiness. So I guess what that is, and I kind of skimmed over that kind of quickly. The point is that your spiritual life should give you a sense of delight, a certain happiness in your life.
Yeah.
And today, and you should have gone outside today. It was a beautiful day out
Delightful.
there. And you know what? I went over to the cemetery for a while, just for 20 minutes, I think, just to walk a little bit. And the trees were so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was delightful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can say that way. It's delightful.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, it was just a moment of just beauty and joy and kind of happiness, see these beautiful autumn leaves. And remember one person recently saying to me, why don't you move to Phoenix with your family and everything else? And the person said, I like the seasons.
Yeah, right.
And we had some beautiful, this autumn, this fall has been a beautiful season. So very delightful in many, many ways. Yes.
Yeah, the delight using that word delightful, and delight is a key word that Rolheiser uses.
say
that,
this again.
that most of us don't experience it. We don't experience delight. He said, even people who, like, if we go around not recognizing our spirituality, because delight is something like all of a sudden hits you, and well, we'll get into it.
That's okay.
As we get
but,
into
but,
here.
but that's a really good point, just to ask all of you.
Even people that spend their lives, he said, working for church and doing all these good things, they're so busy. We're so busy. And I think that's probably where this is, or we get into the chronic busyness that we don't get hit with that delight.
Do you feel delight sometimes? What was the last thing that you could share with us maybe that was delightful to you, which again is a bit of a healthy spirituality? I kind of almost wish that some of your comments could be nameless. Then that way you'd be more apt to share your thoughts. But just an example like I just shared. One have you had or maybe you could share with us, maybe you don't have much delight in your life. Anyway.
Well, and I don't want to get ahead, but wasn't it children? Like, that's what he said.
Yes, we're going to get into that. He's going to explain what delight is. We're going to talk about what delight is.
Yeah, that's why it kind of threw me.
Yeah,
for
we're
a
jumping
moment, 'cause
ahead.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we've been through so much that I'm thinking, what chapter was that even in? Okay, so this I have a sheet that I prepared later for Father Mark, and we got a little confused on. So you'll be able to handle this if you listen to what I read.
Okay.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
He says, these are perennial questions. This is an easy one. These are perennial questions, ultimately about spirituality, which every generation has to answer for itself. However, they pose themselves quite differently from generation to generation.
You know, as I was reading this introduction to this chapter, and it begins with a quote by this Czechoslovakian author, My First Loves. And he begins to ask in the beginning of the chapter, if you have the book, you can turn to page 20 with me. And he starts asking questions like, is it because I respect others more than my peers and am less willing to be irresponsible? Is it because I carry some high quasi-religious moral solitude that I'm rightly hesitant to compromise? Or am I just uptight, timid, lacking in nerve? Am I virtuous or sterile? He's wondering why in his life right now he's celibate, like me, and kind of reticent about that. He's not really happy about all that. See, here's my big question. I'll ask it of Jerry, I'll ask it of Steve, I'll ask it of all of you. What is worse, a prude or promiscuous? Which one is worse? And I think this is one of the big questions that is being asked by spirituality in our time today. First of all, I'll say this. Neither of them are any good. Neither of them are any good. But I would suggest, now, every time I've suggested this, especially to young people, you'd be surprised, they always disagree with me about this. And no matter what I say, I cannot convince them otherwise. But which one is worse, the prude or the promiscuous? Can you guys vote on that one? Maybe say something yourself. And Jerry, what do you think about that one?
I guess it's probably anything where you go to the extremes.
I would agree.
It's always, you know, I've always tried to balance in the middle. What's the creative tension, you know, because we have to have the brakes. We have to have the brakes on our emotions, but then we also have to have the emotions.
Well, let me ask you this
expression
question.
of emotion.
Does the prude have too heavy of a foot on the brakes, and does the promiscuous take his foot completely off the brakes?
Yeah, I guess because that's, we kind of touch on those themes a little bit in this too. The promiscuous has their pedal to the metal. The prude's always afraid to take their foot off the brake.
Yes,
you know.
Yeah.
So
constantly pumping the brakes.
Yeah.
So which one's worse?
It's like that song I love so much that Bette Midler made.
Liam, how are you doing too? Liam, why don't you vote on that one? Go ahead.
It's the one afraid of dying that never learns to live. You know, the dream afraid of waking that never learns to live.
Sure.
But
I mean, if I was the prude is kind of self-righteous, though, aren't they as well?
The prude's very self-righteous.
And
Very self-righteous.
That's not good either.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yeah.
But which one is worse?
We're
You
getting
guys
into
haven't
the
answered my
weeds there.
question yet.
You could argue that the promiscuous can be self-righteous in why they're being promiscuous.
Are you
This is the way I want to live my life. Who are you?
Self-satisfaction.
Yeah, to that to the
self-satisfaction versus self-righteous? Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Which one's worse?
Yeah.
Nobody's
I don't know.
answering
You
my
know.
question.
Right answer.
Yeah. That's
Nobody's answering my
a loaded question.
But I'll answer my own question if that's okay.
Yeah.
I think the prude's worse
Yeah.
because the prude has closed their heart. And so they have no hope of having an authentic relationship with anybody. The promiscuous has at least opened themselves up. It's almost like looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yeah, we've said this actually, like in the work environment. I'd rather
That's
have.
my opinion. What do you guys think?
Yeah, in a work environment, I'd rather have an employee that I have to say, "Hey, slow down, back off a little bit," than to light a fire under them.
I got
And
a
it's that
bunch.
same
I have,
kind of
I have a
thing.
lot of employees like that. It's kind of like slow down. You know,
Yeah.
Take a day off. You know?
Yeah, right. And that's a first class problem. Trying to put life into someone is very, very hard.
Yeah. Now to continue that thought, to go on with the question you asked me, there's a part on page 21, be the first full paragraph there. It says,
Yeah, they don't know the question, so maybe you want to read
here's
some
a
of
series
those.
of questions. Am I being too hard or too easy on myself? Am I unhappy because I'm missing out on life, the prude, or am I unhappy because I'm selfish, maybe the promiscuous? Am I too timid and uptight, or should I be more disciplined? What's the real growth? And what is simply my ego making its demand? What do I find? What do I find that, where do I find this fine line between discipline and enjoyment? There's the thing you were saying,
Yeah.
back and forth. Why do I always feel so guilty? Why do I do, what do I do when I have betrayed a trust? And kind of on and on it goes. These are the questions, and I think I would put them down. And Elizabeth, Betty, you say, I guess in the extremes, neither one is good, correct? I wonder, though, if the promiscuous embraces something in the spirit of things in a certain way. Now, of course, I'm not saying it's okay to be promiscuous.
Right,
I'm not saying
yeah.
that. But
She's agreeing with you.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, she thinks she agrees with me. But nobody else has said anything else about all that. So come on, you guys. Get off the couch.
Yeah. But those were the questions, and that they are, as they say, they're perennial. We've had them through the ages.
Right.
But however, they pose themselves quite differently from generation to generation. So these questions mean something different to us than they did our parents.
And also, too, like the author goes on to say that in the past, with their belief in God, they had maybe more clear guardrails.
Yeah. The past societies were more overtly religious
Yeah.
than we. But they had less trouble believing in God, but they certainly had their own serious religious problems.
Like burning witches, religious wars, slaughtered innocent people while thinking themselves on a crusade for Christ, forbade scientists to look through telescopes, and on it kind of goes. So we all got our problems. And for you and I, by the way, and we kind of do this a lot, we trash the church. Well, the church long ago, they had the crusades. Yeah, different time, different age, different kind of thinking about things. So really kind of unfair to superimpose our ideas and thoughts
Absolutely. Yeah.
on the past like that.
Yeah, with all the racial stuff going on and everything. Some high school and college professors were posing to the kids. Okay, it's 1855, Louisiana. Would you be for slavery? And everybody in there, oh, no. He said, yes, you would.
Probably you would.
1936, Germany. Yeah, most of you people in this room would be a Nazi because of what you went through after World War I, the ideas that were processed.
I'll be a little provocative about that. I'll bet you none of you 10 years ago would say, I'll never believe a conspiracy theory as long as I live. And yet we believe conspiracy theories all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And so it's the things have changed. I would
love
never
them.
do such a thing.
Yeah,
Here we are.
right.
we are.
Right.
Okay.
So we're going to get a little more specific here. The struggles in spirituality that are unique to our age.
So here we're going to talk about this energy stuff.
Yeah, and what he calls the demons that torment us these days. Number one, the naivety about the nature of spiritual energy. Now, he spent the most pages on this one. There's a lot to this.
How naive we are about this, yes.
All energy is imperialistic, especially erotic and creative energy. Energy is not friendly. It wants all of us. It can beat us up like the playground bully. We want to go over the erotic energy again, just so people don't know. We're not talking about sexuality so much.
You could be.
Yeah, but
you could be. But erotic is just that desire, the whole idea of desire. You know, we burn to desire. And it can't be, maybe it's not about sex. It's about possessions. I desire that car. I desire.
We're erotic about our career. Our profession. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, it's just this idea of desire. Yeah.
It's hard to be on fire with love, creativity, or religiosity, but it's just as hard to contain that fire once it hits.
And, I read that. And that was a very interesting comment. I am a devotee of Thomas Merton, of course. Mm-hmm. And I really believe if Thomas Merton wasn't a Trappist monk, he would have been a drunken alcoholic hanging out in Greenwich Village someplace. Yeah. And I think that's true of a lot of the saints. They had so much energy. They had so much eros, I can put it that way, so much passion. And they were able to somehow channel that. Mother Teresa being another one. Teresa of Lisieux, I wrote down here.
Well, we talked last week about Janis Joplin versus Mother Teresa, and they all had tremendous energy.
Yeah. And all these saints, if you read the lives of saints, I read a life of a saint every day. And Give Us This Day, they have a life of a saint every day. I just look forward to it. And all of these men and women just burned with stuff. But because they were able to focus that into their life of faith and a relationship with Jesus, that somehow or other, they were able to somehow become saints, as opposed to just being junkyard dogs or something.
Right. Yeah, just out of control.
So it's hard to do that. Now, some people seem to be more low energy, but you never find a saint that's low energy. Yeah. Never find one.
Like I said, it's hard to light a fire. The main thing is once the fire gets going,
they're
how
off.
do we contain it? And so because of that, former cultures understood this and put up buffers to help mediate this, like transformers cutting down the voltage in power lines. So let's talk about some of the buffers that we're still familiar with. That, things that the free thinking, certain books, think of not that long ago, we would maybe unfairly pick like Sister Mary, whatever, and say, no, don't think about that or don't read that kind of book because.
There is I sometimes on Saturday mornings, maybe about 11 o'clock, I forget what channel it's on, and this guy will feature a censored book for about the last 20 minutes of a show from about 11:30 to 12 o'clock, something like that. And so I find it quite interesting and quite fascinating. But all these books that have gotten censored, and he has the author on talking about the fact that their book was censored and why it was. And he's saying that no book should ever be censored. Now, in one sense, you don't want a second grader trying to read, I don't know, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I don't want a second grader reading.
Lady Chatterley's Lover or whatever.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, we have to put the guardrails up. And like, he talks about, ideological wars, different things in the past that they have done. And just I guess maybe I'll just stick with the censored book idea as a way of putting up a guardrail for us to and it kind of keeps the eros at bay, our energy at bay a little bit with all that. And we have to do that in some fashion. I think the spiritual life, part of it, as we said in the last chapter, is about glue. It's about somehow keeping us glued together, as well as somehow how we channel this energy that we have. So it's a fire that we're supposed to burn. We're not supposed to put the fire out. We're supposed to be able to, channel it in a certain direction. And spirituality is also the glue. And I think in a healthy way, the church has given me that glue and help me to be able to have whatever fire I might have burning inside of me, the glue too.
Yeah. The fire and the boundaries.
Yes, and the boundaries.
Oh,
as well.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
When it comes to energy, we need help not just accessing it, but equally as much containing it. Knowing this, they tried to do two things with energy, especially spiritual and sexual. First, they would always try to understand that energy is coming from God and is ultimately directed back towards God. St. Augustine's quote, we've all heard a million times, "You have made us for yourself, Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you."
Right.
So,
Right. So yes, okay. So the whole idea of our energy somehow comes from God. I think it's important that we realize that. And so we need to honor this energy that way. That's good. That's the first thing. Yes.
the second, to try to contain the imperialistic nature of spiritual and erotic energy, they placed around desire a lot of taboos, prohibitions, and strict laws. This seems to be more of what we just talked about, though.
But the thing is, I want to say about this.
And it wasn't always a bad thing that these.
Now, I remember the prohibition when you just said that. You used the word prohibitions there. We tried to somehow deal with the alcohol issue in our culture in the 1920s. It didn't go so well. But our age has been called the age of Aphrodite. I think I mentioned this before one time. Aphrodite is the goddess of sex, I think. Can somebody look that up? I think there we go. I don't know who that is down there. Ali Valshi, is that how you say her name? That's what I watched. I watch that every once in a while. That's the thing about the person that has that on there. Thank you for that. Whoever, I don't know who that is.
That's Jeannie. I think that's Jeannie Clark.
Oh, Jeannie. Oh, okay. Oh,
Jeannie
good.
Laporta.
Okay, sure. Now, age of Aphrodite. Aphrodite is the god of sexuality. So we somehow have taken off the boundaries about sexuality, our morality about sexuality, and we kind of think we could do anything we want. And also, I think, the world of drugs I think it's much more expanded than we can begin to imagine, the world of drugs with all that. And as Karl Marx one time said, that religion is the opium of the people. And one person said recently that opium is the religion of the people. And also, too, we think that somehow I have to have an active sexual life in the way I think I should have it. And so, therefore, we've taken all the taboos off of that. And I think to great destruction in many ways.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
In our
Well, we
lives.
see, that's a lot of spiritual writers, sociologists, and the religious are saying what's going on now just isn't working. We've opened all the gates, and it's not making people happier.
No, it's not. I sit here as a celibate, and I think, also, a married man, a celibate married man, a faithful married man. I think there's some paths of a deeper maturity. And whenever this is, you might disagree with me with this one, folks. Whenever I have a meeting with young couples, and I talk about birth control, and in which the church is not opposed to birth control, I say the church is opposed to contraception, a process that puts conditions on an act that's meant to be a complete gift to the other in some fashion, like the Eucharist is. And then I say, and I've yet to have a woman disagree with me on this. Whenever you're contracepting, and usually women are the ones who are in charge of that. Yeah. And the men.
It's always the women's problem. Yeah.
It's always the women's problem. All that, yes. And I always say to the woman, I say, do you ever wonder, I qualify it by saying, here I am, a 73-year-old white celibate. What does he know? Do you ever wonder, and they never answer me, I ask it rhetorically, do you ever wonder if he loves me or I'm just convenient? I'm 100% available kind of all the time. And the second part of the issue of natural birth control is that a man has to learn to restrain himself a certain period of time, maybe a week or something like that. And if a man cannot restrain himself sexually, he never really grows up.
Right.
In other words, if my wife is sick, well, what's the matter with her? You know, I want what I want when I want it. And so the immaturity is built in to this free, taboo-less sexuality that we have in our culture today. And again, I agree with you. Nobody's happy about that.
Yeah.
It's not making anybody any happier with all
It's
that.
not working.
Yes.
Well, that's why we look back critically at the uptight, legalistic approaches of the past. But it seems that it was devoid of many of the dysfunctions and neuroses that are prevalent today. You know, it's actually, they're psychologists, that's people that are studying and doing the empirical data. We're more, especially the young people, we're more depressed. We're more afraid. We're less committed.
What are we
We're
afraid
always-
of?
I'm not sure. I threw that afraid in there. And I
Afraid,
don't know. I'd have
afraid
to think more
fail
well.
Because afraid to fail.
Yeah, well, afraid of commitment.
I think
Committed
that's true.
commitment. Maybe that's
Yes.
where it was. That, like I said, that word just came to my head.
I struggled with that for a little bit in my youth.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you know, the whole relationship thing.
I was
and everything.
afraid I wasn't good enough. Afraid I couldn't do it. Afraid I didn't have what it took to be faithful to something.
The suicide rates are so high, and you can almost understand why, because if there isn't an answer, you know, that's
And I'm going to share with you a little bit about
Yeah.
Parker Palmer, which does talk about that.
yeah,
a little bit.
because
So
I was tempted to go down a road I'm not going to go here. We want to manage all this energy on our own, which is partly a good and necessary step to maturity, but it can also be the opposite.
yeah, doing it on my own as a mature
And that's part of
adult
this
is
too.
one thing.
It's on your own. That's what these people, I think one of the reasons they're suffering, they're so on their own. But I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, they're on their own, but also too, with younger folks, is there a pressure, like the chapter began with the author who was wondering about his own celibacy? Is there something the matter with him? Do I have to be sexually active? If I'm not sexually active, is there something wrong with me
Right.
somewhere along the way? And I wonder if young people struggle with that a lot too.
Yeah.
Father, there were a few comments there just
Good, yes.
confirming, you know, the Greek goddess Aphrodite. And then Chris mentioned, so probably our energies aren't bad, except that we point them in negative directions.
Correct, Chris.
Yeah,
I
that's a
agree.
good
That's
approach.
why you need the glue, the boundaries with all that too. Okay.
Talk about a person with energy, by the way. Chris.
Which Chris?
Chris, that's Chris Cosgrove. I mean,
Oh,
she's
oh, oh.
involved in so many things, and she's like a black belt in something, and she's.
You're right.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's
she's,
great. Okay,
She's
good.
got. Chris has lots of
Okay.
energy.
Why you're back there singing sometimes?
That's-
Okay,
oh my God,
yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
good.
much for the anonymity.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I'm
her
sorry,
name's
Chris.
her-
Sorry,
yeah, Chris.
sorry. Oh,
Yeah.
I was just joking.
Her name's Chris Smith. You don't know her. Anyway.
I didn't say that first. Anyway,
Anyway.
throwing you under the bus there.
Now, Rolheiser says we have naively begun to believe that we, in fact, understand that. Understand it. In fact, that we can control it and that we need little, if any, external help in coping with it. He believes this naivety is one of the major spiritual stumbling blocks of our time.
Sure.
So we're just going a little
we've been
deeper
talking
into the
about
same
that.
point,
Yes,
really.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and a lot of this then is just going to follow from that comment, you know. Channeling arrows is not first and foremost about sin and morality.
Did we skip the
No, it's-
question there?
These,
I have much to say about that.
let's see why we don't here. Pardon our pages here. Page 24. I might have grabbed something. Yeah, because we do. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
This same thing.
I
Marty
grabbed
does
too
to me
many
all the time,
pages.
too. Yeah,
Like,
okay.
all
Same thing
right.
Marty does to me. Yeah.
We're a little off our game tonight. I apologize. Let's talk about depression in this context and its opposite, which is delight. So how is Rolheiser describing depression, which is different than what you would think?
Well, he does talk about depression, but I don't think he talks about it as well as Parker Palmer does in this book right here. And I want to share some thoughts about depression that he has here because I could really relate to it myself. And maybe And I don't want to, and I think maybe your comments would be very, very much appreciated. Depression comes, he says, in many forms. And I think we do get depressed whenever our arrows, can I start with this? The title of the book is called Let Your Life Speak. And he's talking about, the subtitle is Listening to the Voice of Vocation. Who am I? What am I supposed to become? Not what the world wants me to become, what my parents want me to become. What am I supposed to become myself? And he's going to make the claim that if I get off the rails and I allow myself to move in a direction that is in opposition to who I am, then my soul will eventually scream at me that I am in a wrong place. And the way he'll do that oftentimes is depression. Mm-hmm. So depression comes in many forms. Some are primarily genetic or biochemical and respond only to drugs. Some are primarily situational or respond only to inner work that leads to self-knowledge, choices, change, and some lie in between the two. Though I needed medication for brief periods to stabilize my brain chemistry, my depression was largely situational, which tells a story about it as, which will tell the story about it, which I'll tell the story about it as far as I am able. So he's going to tell a story about his own depression in a certain kind of way. Then he goes on to say this, which I think is very important about this. I'm skipping a whole bunch in the middle here. He says, embracing the mystery of depression does not mean passivity or resignation. It means moving into a field of forces that seem alien, but is in fact one's deepest self. So we enter into our depression. We're entering the deepest self of who we are. It means waiting, watching, listening, suffering, gathering whatever self-knowledge I can by my depression. And my depression is my life screaming at me. And then making choices based on that knowledge, no matter how difficult. And it might be changing your life drastically. One begins the slow walk back to health by choosing each day things that enliven one's selfhood and resisting things that do not. Putting some guardrails back up again, I think, is what we're saying here. The knowledge I am talking about is not intellectual and analytical. It's integrative and of the heart. And the choices that lead to wholeness are not pragmatic or calculated of things up here, intended to achieve a goal, but simply and profoundly expressive of personal truth. Who am I as a person? It is a demanding path for which no school prepares us to know. I had to walk this path a second time, he says, because what I learned about myself the first time frightened me. I rejected my own knowing, refused to make the choices required, and the price was a second sojourn into hell. So now, that expresses as deeply as I can my own depression that I experienced. I hope that resonates with some of you, and maybe you want to share a little bit about that.
So what you're saying is, and I think maybe we need to separate it from clinical depression that needs medicine. The depression most of us experience all the time is something we need to recognize and then work with it and use it.
Yes.
Use it as a tool to show us things.
Yeah, like he says, there's a spectrum. There's the clinically depressed over here. There's a situation over here, and there's all this spectrum in between.
Right.
And he, and anyway, so yeah, that's exactly what he's saying. So depression is your soul screaming at you, trying to get you to see things. And if you don't look at the depression and jump in there, you'll miss it.
And that would be the role of healthy spirituality.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And he goes on to say in that one section, I don't know why I was able to make my way through and make my way out. And I'll say the same thing. What caused me to make this movement, to make my way? I don't know. And why can't some people make that move in their lives? I don't know that either. That's a great mystery. Some people see their depression as a way through. Others get trapped in it. Don't know why.
Maybe that's why we need our religion, our guide rails, and maybe even more importantly, our community. Religion and community, I think it sounds like is the way to work your way through that.
Many people I've talked to who are depressed, they can't seem to be gentle with themselves. They have a hard time doing that. Or to look at it objectively as best they can. They always see it as a curse and can't accept their depression and try to move forward with it in some way.
Father, can you share the name of that book again,
Yes,
please?
the name of the book, it's excellent, absolutely excellent. You won't be able to put it down. Parker Palmer, Let Your Life Speak.
Thank you, Linda.
It is an you can't see it very well here.
Linda just put it in there, so thank you.
Okay, great. Very great, Linda. Okay, wonderful. So anyway, that's the depression part, if I could share that.
Okay. Yeah,
And then
that's a good.
Okay,
Yeah, so he says the opposite of depression is delight. Now we're going to get into that word, delight.
correct.
And that is not something, I think this is curious. I'm going to combine these two thoughts here. It's not something that we can make happen in our lives. That's
Neither
something.
of them.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't want to make the depression happen.
Yeah, right.
But you
yeah.
cannot force yourself to be I cannot force myself to be happy.
No, it's something you just
just-
discover it.
It's a result of a life lived.
Yeah, right.
Delight is a result of a life lived.
Yeah.
Yes. And
And
delight, again, look at the trees outside and they're beautiful. Tomorrow's supposed to be a beautiful day too.
yeah, the whole
Well,
week
thank you.
really. God, he says, God, it feels great to be alive. That's delight. That's what it means not to be depressed.
And you know what? And you were mentioning it before. Sometimes when I get a chance to pray during the day in my little prayer room over in my room, and the weather's nice and the windows are open, I hear the kids screaming and yelling over there in the playground. They're having a blast. They're just screaming and yelling all over. They experience so much delight in their lives.
Yeah, Rolheiser uses that as an example. Kids just screaming on the playground. A little kid in a high chair throwing their potatoes. That's
Yeah.
So it's rare for adults, but not for children. So we talked about
sadly.
delight is a spontaneous response to the goodness and the beauty of life, not the commercialized tapes of someone expounding the merits of positive thinking. I hate
think
positive thinking.
Yeah, the time. No, I know that's such a waste. Remember when I was in Lourdes? I don't know if it was the second or third time I was there. Every time actually, I experienced absolute delight almost 24/7. It was a time in my adult life whenever I experienced the deepest delight I've ever known in my life. And I oftentimes would say to people, I learned what it meant to play as an adult, but maybe delight is a better word.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if you were going to read this, Jerry, but it's highlighted in mine here about in Western culture, the joyous shouting of children.
What page you on, Steve?
If I can tell here.
I've been trying to put
26, I think.
Okay.
Paragraph 26.
Page 26 is what mine says, but I have the digital version.
Go ahead. You're good. Go ahead.
In Western culture, the joyous shouting of children often irritates us because it interferes with our depression. That's why we have invented a term hyperactivity so that we can, in good conscience, sedate the spontaneous joy in many of our children.
Right. Yeah. See, I put. I see what you're reading it from the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was my next thing in my script. I have we often sedate. I used the last sentence that he talked about because we're sedating the children.
I wonder. I have no expertise in this regard, and some of you are teachers, so you can respond to this. Yeah. Is ADD a thing, or is it something but just calming down boys?
Well, I
don't know.
I've come to terms that it's my gift from God. I used to look at, I think I took the little orange triangle pills when I was in third grade. They tried it, but that didn't work.
What's the matter with you?
I couldn't sit still and stuff. I just couldn't, First grade put me over the edge. I was done after that. But, I had to keep getting up and sharpening my pencil. I just can't, And something like that sticks with you your whole life,
But was there really anything wrong with you, or just
the nuns? Well, it's the typical. He's very bright, but he doesn't apply himself, and it's like, no, I didn't want to apply myself.
Because you wanted to go out and play.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, I know. It needed to be channeled a different way, but they didn't know what to do with me. My wife still.
We still don't know what to do with them. But anyway, but other than that,
Anyway.
I just wonder: is ADD a real thing?
Yeah, you know what? I think. I really think, and some of it, our food has things to do with it. It could be hereditary.
Oh, the food.
You know,
causes-
my son struggled with it. You know, it's you just you want to do stuff all the time.
But is it
But I
really
don't
a
know.
problem?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I just wonder. And teachers, you're welcome to.
Well, I shared this like a couple of weeks ago. How
Seriously,
I
what do you
looked
think?
at a no, or maybe it wasn't on Follow Your Faith. It was in our adult ed, where a very freeing thing happened whenever I realized if I struggle with this, like really sitting still, I can only spend so much time in the office. I got to be in my car going out to see people. You know, it drives me crazy.
That's
Well,
good for
it's
your
about-
job. That's good for your job.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I've looked at it, but I started looking at it like, okay, well, maybe this is a handicap. It's what God gave me, and if it's a handicap, I recognize that, and it was so freeing,
There you go.
you know. But then the tide turned on that one, and God was showing me, look at all these handicapped people that are doing heroic things. So it's
Well,
like,
maybe not
okay,
good. But anyway, Susie, very good. ADHD, hyperactive kids were sent to the military schools back in the 50s. I'll bet that's true.
OCD is a real thing, but
Well,
yeah, that's
OCD,
a whole lot.
that's
That's
a
a
real
little
thing.
different.
That's different.
Yeah.
Yes, that's different.
I didn't spend third grade stacking my pencils just the right way obsessively, you know. But
But so Kim thinks ADD is a real thing. Okay,
okay.
all right, good. I have no idea. We should keep
So-
going. We're gonna get stuck on that one.
Yeah, I know.
But
We
you
should.
guys keep responding if you want
yeah,
to.
sorry, folks.
But OCD is a real thing.
How do we find the right balance, the right way to access energy and contain it? You know, he's asked the same questions. The answer is spirituality.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
do you have any
yes.
notes on that? Anything you want to say about that?
No, you just said it. That's okay.
Rolheiser says we have naively begun to believe that we, in fact, understand this energy and we cannot control it. Yes, I read this earlier, but I went through too many pages.
I don't
We
think
need
do.
little, if any, external help with coping it. He believes this is the one major spiritual stumbling block of our time. Thank you, Steve, for bringing me back because I had skipped a page and we
I was
started to
thinking
talk
of
about this.
Teenagers having boundaries with the phone, but let's quit yelling at the teenagers, man.
Yeah.
We're just as bad with that phone as anybody is. So
We have another story that we did. I don't know if we wanted to spend any time on that story.
no, it's
So,
okay.
Channeling arrows correctly is not first and foremost about sin and morality. It is about whether or not we sit in delight or depression while eating our suppers at night.
Yeah,
It's
I-
like
I-
going through our lives,
And he
right?
does right before that. He talks about we have so overstimulated ourselves. Back when I was an education major in school and in college years ago, we kept on harping. The professors kept on harping. You got to stimulate them. You got to stimulate them. I think now they're probably harping. Stop stimulating them. Stop stimulating them.
yeah.
They're kind of over. We're all
Give 'em a pill,
overstimulated,
right?
in many ways. And I kept on thinking. Now, our culture has taken sex, pornography, and different things. Total, complete overstimulation, pornography, all that. It's a complete, total manipulation of who you are. I contrast that with the church saying that sex is sacred and that the marital act of sexual intercourse is related to Holy Communion in church, that they're both these highly sacred things. I don't know that we kind of get that about the marital act of sexual intercourse
Yeah.
being sacred, but do we really get that the Eucharist is sacred too? But they're sacred, both of them. The early church would make an analogy between the two of them as being the deepest, most profound act between two human beings, the most intimate we can be with God. I mean, these are sacred things, and we put guardrails on both of them. I go to Holy Communion, not because I feel like it. I should make sure I'm ready for this. Am I in right relationship with Jesus with this? I think we're a little too frivolous about that. We go to communion. I go to church once every blue moon. I'll walk up the aisle with a herd, and I'll do that. I would think twice about that.
Right.
I would think. No, I won't say that out loud
Yeah.
because you're being judgmental and
So you're comparing it to being frivolous sexuality in a way. Yeah, you're just not.
Yeah,
You're not doing it for the
faithful
right
to my
reasons.
wife
You're not-
in many
you're
ways
conscious
by
of-
porn or something else.
Yeah.
I don't, no big deal. Yes, it is a big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it always a big deal.
Okay, now we get into talk about how naivety about spiritual and erotic energy can inflate us.
Okay.
And we're going to get into our political
This,
thing. here.
yes, this is the one. This is the place. Now, I asked Steve. Now, my niece gave me this article, and she gave it to me because I sent her one that mentioned this. This is David Brooks, New York Times, and he goes full bore into talk about being overstimulated. Here we are in a secular world. God has taken a backseat in most people's lives in our culture, even people that go to church. And so where do we pin all of our energy on these days? But politics. And so he's making the claim that our politics are religious in nature. And he goes on to say in the article, why has the needle never moved in the last 3 or 4 months in all this? Why is it that everybody who is a staunch,
In the last decade, even.
The
The elections are so close.
if you're staunch left, staunch right, why don't you ever move? Now, there is some movement by some, and everybody makes a big deal out of it, but because there's a creed. The left has a creed. The right has a creed. And you don't violate the creed. It's almost like a religion. And it's almost like we're back to having religious wars again, but now we're having political wars.
Yeah.
And he's saying it's like that. So this energy we have, this eros, wrongly channeled, we've overemphasized our politics to such a degree that we can't think anymore. It's become a religion. And I guess Steve put it up. So I invite you to read it.
Yeah, it's a good article.
Just real quick, Susie, or your brother said, Google Father Mike Schmidt's crash course on theology of the body.
Okay, that's a good idea. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Mike Schmidt's crash course on theology of the body. Yeah, that's a great idea. There's a couple books on, because that'll share with you how sacred sex is and how sacred our body is, for crying out loud, with
Right.
all that too. Yes. And he puts some guardrails up there.
Right. Yeah.
So,
It ties in great with this.
yes.
So the other demon that we have in our society today, we can all relate to this: pathological busyness, distraction, and restlessness.
Yep.
A number of historical circumstances are blind. Now, some people say it's Satan, and whatever it is or not, you can get into this. But he says a number of historical circumstances are blindly flowing together and accidentally conspiring to produce a climate within which it is difficult not just to think about God or to pray, but simply to have any interior depth whatsoever.
Yeah, that Jan Walgrave goes on to say that our age constitutes a virtual conspiracy against the interior life because of pathological narcissism, excessive preoccupation, excessive work, and restlessness, excessive greed in our lives. I got to have this. I got to have that. I'm going to get in trouble for this one. Should I say it?
I don't know. I
I don't
shouldn't
know
know.
if I should either. But anyway, it's
thought
everybody has to have their pet dog that they take for a walk. It's almost if you don't have a dog, in
Yeah,
some way,
dog, yeah.
you're out of step with everybody else. Not only do you have one, you got to have 2 and 3. Nowadays everybody has to have all that. So it's almost like we got to somehow measure up to the culture. I maybe jumped into one on that one, and I apologize. So, but those are the big 3 that he's talking about that are the issues that we kind of struggle with these days. Yes, very much.
I don't know if you wanted to talk about each one a little more in depth, but
Well-
but that's up to you.
Yeah, let's keep
We can
just
keep
you
moving
kinda,
here. We're
excessive
we have a lot of
preoccupation.
stuff here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can keep going. So we go ahead. Yeah.
The next demon is a critical problem with balance, leading to a bevy of divorces. And there are 7 of these. We're forever creating illicit dichotomies, bad divorces, that force us to. We're not talking marriage divorces.
Yeah, we're not talking about that at all. No.
Bad divorces that force us to choose between 2 things when, in fact, both are needed for us to healthily channel out spiritual energies. So we emphasize balancing again, right?
Yeah. It's all the way through all this. Yes.
Okay, the first divorce between religion and eros. Why does Rolheiser call this the most harmful facing us today of all the current false choices?
Well, he goes on to say, religion got to keep God, and the secular got to keep sex. The secular got passion, and God got chastity. We are children of the divorce, like all children of a broken home, find ourselves torn between two, unconsciously looking for them to come back together again. Religion, especially lived out in many churches, is perceived as being anti-erotic, anti-sex, anti-creative, anti-enjoyment, anti this world. The secular world is seen as a champion of eros, sex, creativity, enjoyment, but is seen as anti-God and anti-church. There's the divorce right there. And again, as he says, they have to begin to go together. The happiest people I know are people that put guardrails on their sexuality in some way. And also, too, does this go back to the whole thing of prude versus promiscuous again? Are we back to that thing again? Which both of them in the extremes are bad. And I couldn't get Jerry to make a decision on that one. And we have to have them both in some way. So he wouldn't.
I didn't have time to think deeply. Yes. So
Karen was defending the.
He's got that dogs and cats actually keep some people off drugs and give them. I agree, Karen. Absolutely, I agree. Especially elder folks who have a pet dog with them. And so I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. I shouldn't have said that.
I love my Phoebe.
But anyway, I know that whenever I jump into that one, I get in trouble. But anyway, that's the whole thing of eros and religion.
Avoiding something I want to do on air with you sometime about the selfless love of a dog, because I know that'll make you crazy.
Oh yeah, you'll make me crazy.
I have a great thing for that. Anyway,
between spirituality and
spirituality and ecclesiology. As our church members are decreasing, the numbers of people interested in spirituality is proportionally increasing. People want to be spiritual, but they don't
want to be. I know. Thomas Hallock says that in the age to come, in the age of the future, atheism is going to be no more. He says what you're going to find more is people seeking spirituality outside of religion, outside the institution, which to me should make the institution buck up a little bit, because why are they seeking outside the church? Why aren't we delivering on all these different things? He goes on to say, well, again, we got extremes in all of that with both of those two.
Well, isn't everybody running around being spiritual really being individualistic?
Yes.
If you're doing that outside of the container of a group of people with a common God, a common goal, then you have just a lot of individuals, and there's no unity. He's going to go
on to say this later on. I think the next week we're going to do this. He's going to say that without community, we make up our own God. And so therefore we'll never find the real one. So community is an essential part of a spiritual journey.
I've heard someone say that we necessarily become God.
Well,
we do, in a way, without God.
We make up our own rules along the way.
Right.
Yes. And they kind of have a way of not getting the point. A strange thing is happening in the Western world today. As the number of persons participating in our church is dramatically decreasing, the number of persons increasing spirituality is proportionally increasing. When it's a dramatic decline in church life, right at the midst of a spiritual renaissance, what's happening? And I think that's a really important thing. Can I throw my niece out there, Teresa, who's been on the show a couple times? I find her to be a profoundly spiritual person, but not involved in the church at all.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. People today want faith, but not church.
Well, a lot. Because what they see in the church is anything but faith. They don't see. Right. They see a lot of judgmentalism and hypocrisy and different things. So
as a church, then we should be, at some level, really excited that people are seeking spirituality.
Yes.
So how can we fill that need.
Okay, here's one of the big things he writes here. This is good. Every religion begins with the answers. He asserts. This is Stephen King, or, Sam Keen, who said the spiritual quest begins with the opposite. It begins with questions. For Sam Keen, within spirituality, unlike religion, you don't just surrender. You don't just obey. You ask more questions. He's saying organized religion begins with the answers when true spirituality begins with questions. Good point. Good point. We have to, a good question, the perfect question is more important than any kind of an answer. So questions and answers, both of those have to somehow come together.
Right.
For that.
They have to dance together.
Yes.
The divorce between private morality and social justice. This is really appropriate these days. Ernst Caseman, the renowned scripture scholar, commented that what is wrong with the world and in the churches is the pious aren't liberal and the liberals aren't pious. What he is saying generally is that private and social morality are too rarely found within the same person.
Right. Yeah. I think you kind of nailed it there. Spiritual, and then on the flip side of that, he says, to bring them together, says spirituality, as we shall see, is equally about both liberality and piety, action and contemplation, private morality and social justice, concern of feminism, Greenpeace, along with the 10 Commandments. Sadly, today, this is one of our major stumbling blocks to live a healthy spirituality, and these are invariably divorced from one another, and they shouldn't be. We should be bringing those together. So that's the divorce, he's saying, between private morality and social justice. They kind of come together. We're kind of running out of time here.
No, we'll get through this one quick. The divorce of the gifted child and the giving adult. To be religiously mature was to be a person who freely gives his or her life away. Let's talk about how what seems to be selflessness can actually be problematic.
If I may, very quickly, anyway, by the way, I have offered many a woman to read this book called The Drama of the Gifted Child. It's a tiny thing. It's not very big. Women, I think that Alice Miller, she's a Jungian analyst, she goes on to say that many women are taught to be pleasing to everybody. You're supposed to be pleasing. Right. You're supposed to be always smiling. You're supposed to, be this.
We're not talking intelligent gifted. We're talking.
No, we're talking about emotionally gifted.
Right.
They're emotionally, and they know how to please other people. But after a while, they begin to become angry because people begin to take advantage. Yeah. Now,
become doormats. Or feel that they're being doormats.
And many women would say this. And here's what Parker Palmer says about this. He talked about the similar kind of thing. He said, here's an example of what I mean. Over the years, I have met people who have had a very human claim on me by making known their need to be loved. For a long time, my response was instant and reflexive, born of the aughts I had to absorb. Of course, you need to be loved. Everybody does. And I love you. I'm going to take care of you. It took me a long time to understand that although everybody needs to be loved, I can't be the source of that gift to everyone who asks me for it. There are some relationships in which I am capable of loving, others I'm not. To pretend otherwise or to put out a promissory note I'm unable to honor is to damage my own integrity and that of the person in need. All of that in the name of love, what it's not.
Right.
So what the divorce of the gifted child and the giving adult is to put love in its proper perspective.
Yeah, and he sums that up with a paragraph. He says, spiritually, the gifted child is meant to become the gifted adult.
Yes.
The person who, like Jesus, can say, nobody takes my life from me. I give it freely. That's pretty powerful.
Exactly. I give it freely, yes. And don't put a dog on my porch. I just glanced down there. You guys are going to go. I'm in trouble now.
Okay, this last divorce, the divorce by contemporary culture of its paternalistic Christian heritage. I think we just make one statement about this. There was 2 pages of a long story but it was really just one
And it's
conclusion. What
really-
does that mean?
It's really, really important. What these guys are, which he is saying, and every spiritual writer I know is saying about the secular world. The secular world has bought into Christian values, many of them, and then jettisoned God.
Yeah.
And then they said, we reject God, but we bought into the Christian values. And so they're saying that the paternalistic past, we're jettisoning all that. But really, you're picking and choosing the ones that you want, but the ones they've chosen have come from the Christian tradition,
Right.
in a way. So the secular world is,
And then they
is
don't
really
hold up
is really-
very well.
It's really the fruit of Christianity in many ways.
Yeah, yeah. And it doesn't hold up all that well because it's not really based in God.
Right.
And there's not time. There's not that unifying
Right.
factor.
Doesn't
Does
have
that
the
make
glue.
sense?
Doesn't have the glue to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Now we're
just to take 1 minute to talk about the last thing is called Towards Christian Spirituality. And it's really Rolheiser saying, okay, given all of this, here's how we're going to move forward with the rest of the book.
correct. Now then we're going to get off of the frame, the foundation.
Yeah, we defined everything.
Now we defined everything. Now we're going to talk specifics.
Yeah.
Specifics. Yes.
So, and he said, and there's a lot of ways to approach this because there's a lot of religions. There's a lot of ways to bring the secular and the religious and all that together, but there wouldn't be enough books to do that. And because he is who he is, he's taking this spiritual approach from a Catholic Christian perspective. And he's writing forward for Catholic Christians, hoping that others will come along for the ride. And over the 20 years of this book, a lot of people from other disciplines have really loved this.
So we're going to get a Catholic spirituality all this. Betty, I got it. I hope you're right. And I will not be screaming much about the Steeler game at all tonight. Thank you for the advice. I appreciate it. Until you get a hot toddy. I don't even know what that is.
It's a drink.
So, but thanks you guys for
that'll calm
watching.
them down.
Do we want to just the next coming?
Oh, the next week.
Oh, the plan for next week is we're off next week like we usually do, take the last Sunday of the month off. And the following week, then we'll be back. Marty's going to
November
take the
3rd.
next track. Yeah, November 3rd. Marty's going to take the next chapter. I'll be on my way back from San Antonio,
And
seeing my
non-negotiable essentials is what we're talking
non-negotiable essentials.
about. Non-negotiables, yes.
This is where rubber's really going to hit the road now, and we're going to
Correct.
learn some practical stuff. So
Okay.
I hope we haven't exhausted you with this exhausting approach to this.
I know my voice wasn't too terrible, but thanks, Betty. I appreciate that.
My
a lot.
notes were all
Very
over the
much.
place.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, very good, folks. Thank you for joining us. Love being here with you each and every Sunday evening. Thanks
All
for
right.
joining us. Goodbye now.
Bye.